Well, GM, everybody, and welcome to a brand new show with ETHGas, pioneering Ethereum, blockchain, and block space markets, unlocking profound capital efficiency and precision for builders to power an instant and gasless Ethereum for everyone. Today, I'm joined by Kevin in the hotspot. I'm going to let Kevin introduce themselves on the show. So let me get Kevin up here. How is it going, Kevin? You excited for the show today?
Hey, Jack. Thank you for having me. And good evening from Hong Kong, where we are at the moment. But you never know where we'll be tomorrow. Thanks for having me.
No, absolutely. And Kevin, do you want to introduce yourself to the audience today? Why are you speaking on behalf of ETHGas?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I'm Kevin, founder of ETHGas. I can give a bit of background how I kind of got into this. I come from a TradFi background. Many years ago, I started off as a vol trader or an FX option trader. Rates, derivatives, credit derivatives, all this quantity stuff. Had the pleasure or honor, dishonor of working through kind of GFC pre '08, post '08. And I was like, I've had enough of this stuff. I'm out. And so, left, got into, started a tech company, like an enterprise cloud company. But crypto just kept beckoning me. It kept calling me back into this space as far as I want to get away from the world of finance and fun. Crypto just kept calling me back. So, DeFi summer obviously was like a wake up call. And then I just had a whole bunch of ideas, ETHGas being one of them. And then, one day I was chatting with this guy about like lending and borrowing on chain. And he was like, well, look, I can give you like 50 million bucks to lend as a part of my as a part of your portfolio, sorry, as a part of your protocol, but I can't give you like $1 billion balance sheet. And I was like, well, why not? And he's like, well, come on, Kev, like people can like front run you, they can sandwich attack you, they can like do all this like sniping and all this stuff. And at the time, I didn't really understand exactly like what went on in this like netherworld of gas, and it just kind of like prompted me to dive into this very very special world and try to kind of provide some transparency on it. So lo and behold, dove into ETHGas, and here we are today.
I love that, dude. And yeah, look, I think anyone who has been in Ethereum, in crypto for any amount of time has probably dealt with some version of a gas issue in some world. So I think it's a great conversation to be having today. Really love what you guys are building as well.
Thank you, sir.
We've discussed this. Basically, you've broken this down for us quite well to start with, which is why we should listen to you today about what you're building. What's your expertise? What have you done in your career over the last decade that gives you the knowledge, the experience, and the insight to tackle Ethereum and these gas markets? Can we dive a little deeper into that? Because you mentioned pre-2008 being in finance, sort of
Yeah,
experiencing the issues there that led to, the credit crisis and the credit crunch, or, the
exactly.
housing crisis. Tell me a bit about that. Tell me about sort of your origins and that story in a bit more detail.
Yeah, so the calling which brought me into crypto was basically building new financial rails. But
Okay.
if you look at the way the broader ecosystem is based today, if you look at a financial market as a whole, you basically start with like the definition of money. Um, and then once you have kind of like
Mm,
stable coins, right? Once you have
sure.
that definition of money, then you can have like different types of money, and you can have FX and different types of tokens. But arguably the entire world of crypto, it largely functions like, and this is not really the right word, but like equity markets, in the sense that you have these tokens or FX that just go up and down in value. But the thing is that, like, in the quote real world of finance, you have fixed income, and the fixed income world is largely institutional. It's
Mm,
vastly larger than the equity like markets, which crypto kind of feel like. And so the real end game is, can we get those institutional players? Can we get like sovereign wealth funds? Can we get like pension funds? Um, endowment funds? Can we get them on chain? And a lot of these have a longer duration than just like, where's the price going to move in the next 10 seconds, right? Like they're thinking, I need to plan like 1, 3, 5, years ahead. And so that comes to the what I was alluding to earlier, where this big lender says like, I can give you like 50 million, but I can't give you a billion. Um, and it comes to basically like this security from like a fixed income perspective. And so my initial calling was building. So previous life, I led financial engineering at Morgan
mm,
Stanley. So that's where I was. Tried five
wow.
for 12 years, a team of 40 quants, and I wanted to rebuild fixed income. But in order to bring fixed income on chain, you need to solve these key issues around like, how do the gas markets work? Can they be more predictable? Can they be more like just like watertight? And
Mm.
we need to fix that first if we're going to unlock what I'd call is like real fixed income and set up the foundation for institutional players to come on board. And so, well, there you go. That's my background.
That's
Spent a
earning.
number of spent a chunk of time in in TradFi and fixed income. If you've seen The Big Short, I think it's what's her name? Selena Gomez. I think she's someone in my team in The Big Short, where she's betting on someone who's betting on someone. But
Yes.
anyway, here I am trying to solve this kernel, this little piece that's going to set up the rails for fixed income, and open it up to the credit markets, and in light of that, the broader financial system.
Yeah, that's super cool. I love The Big Short, by the way. And Mike, was it Michael Lewis, the original
Yeah,
author,
yeah,
and
it's
then
it's hilarious.
so
Yeah,
so
it was
so
really scary watching it. It's like, oh my god, like, did they interview like my colleagues? Like, how exactly did this work? And sure enough, they did. But yeah, entertaining nonetheless.
yeah, that's fascinating to hear, like how close you were to those stories. And yeah, I'm not surprised that that sort of turned you off traditional finance for a time. Tell me about fixed income, because we've referenced this a couple of times. We're going to have a really, I think, varied audience hopefully today. And for our audience who have tuned in, if you are enjoying this already, get a like out, get a retweet out. I want to get this to as many people as possible, because this is some cool stuff. But yeah, tell me about fixed income. Tell me what is specifically it is, in a way that somebody who's maybe into crypto but not traditional finance will understand.
Sure. It basically comes to like traditional like lending and borrowing, where I can lend for a period of time at a fixed rate, and I'm just locked into that rate. So despite like the state of the world, I have that
Mm,
predictability and that certainty around that. And conversely, it might be like, I want to borrow at a fixed rate, and so for example, like if you're borrowing for like your car, for example, you're borrowing at some interest rate, and if interest rates move, well, you're going to pay more or less. And if it's a car and it's 5 years, that may not matter so much. But if you're talking about a mortgage, and I'm paying over 30 years, and my interest rate goes from 3 to 4 to 5%, mortgages are extremely sensitive to interest rates, and so it's very critical that we can build the foundation for these type of instruments where it all just comes down to certainty. And so,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, there's two aspects to what we're doing, which which are linked to fixed income. One is, as I said, the ability to prevent the liquidation of like loans on Aave and stuff like that. That's just one aspect of it.
Mm,
But at the same rate, we might get into it, but within our marketplace, we basically enable validators, like Ethereum's validators, to sell their block space in advance.
right.
And so, validators on Ethereum, they make 3% give or take, and it might go up to 3.1 or 2.9. It goes up and down, right? So it's variable. But if they can sell their block space in advance, that basically opens up fixed rate staking. And so it is the first time across any blockchain where fixed rate staking or the fundamentals of a yield curve are now embedded at that very foundation of the blockchain itself. And so this is pivotal for not just Ethereum, but really the global financial system as it looks for maturity within the Ethereum ecosystem. And so happy to dive deeper, but that's it at a high level.
No, that's great. And that's exactly what we'll do for the audience today. I definitely want to dive into ETHGas and those solutions and the problems that you saw previously. So, yeah, I think with no further ado, let's just do it. Let's jump in. So, tell me about ETHGas from that, elevator pitch level. Then we can go into like an Uber pitch, and then we can go. I don't. Have you heard this term, by the way? I don't. I don't want to assume, but something that seems to have crept into the crypto space specifically, where it's like, look, crypto is fairly complex. Trying to explain what we're building in this complex world in an elevator, almost impossible for most projects at this point. So instead, we've got this new term called Uber pitch, and it's like when everyone's traveling, especially, I'm sure you familiar with all the IRL events that we attend,
Yeah.
Token 2049 coming up. Maybe I can explain it to you in an Uber ride. So let's share the next Uber ride. And this new term Uber pitch is like seemingly sort of brought out of the crypto space. And so yeah, without an elevator pitch, tell me the Uber pitch here. What was the specific problems that even somebody not native to Ethereum will understand that ETHGas is looking to solve, and how are you looking to do this?
Sure. So there's a couple degrees of separation. Um, so the most fundamental component is that within a blockchain, you have two sides. You have the validators who just supply block space, and then you have users who use the blockchain. But the users come in many different shapes and sizes. You have market makers or trading firms or HFT, very sophisticated actors and players. You also have retail who don't have the infrastructure, don't have the insight, don't have access. But then you also have like programmatic types of protocols. You might have like an Oracle updating, or you might have like an L2 updating. And so you have many different types of users who are looking to use Ethereum. But the instrument that they use to communicate gas is quite abstract and it's quite vanilla in some sense. And so what we were looking to do is basically provide some structure around this thing called gas. And so
Mm.
if we can provide basically, if we can improve the user experience on Ethereum for each of those sets of users, they'd be willing to pay more for it. So on the one hand side, the one of our kind of headline initiatives is making Ethereum real time. Of course, it's super slow, 12-second block times. The foundation has come out and said, we can maybe through a stroke of genius get it down to 1 second. But for anything faster, for anything real time, you basically need like guys like us creating that experience. And so yes, we can make Ethereum real time. Now that doesn't like it sounds awesome for everyone, right? But some people are not necessarily looking for that type of thing. Um, there's other traders who want maybe like just better execution, and what this means is like if they're doing some like sexdex arbitrage or they're doing some other types of like sophisticated trading strategies, how can they do it better, faster, with more certainty? And so if we can provide these suite of products on one side, then those users will be happy, and the validators will be happy because they're paid more, and boom, there we go. Now we have structure in the gas markets. So instead of this vanilla product, we now have different flavors of gas. We have almost like it's in one sense you could say you'd have like a premium gas, like a regular, and like a unpremium or whatever, like a lower quality gas. But it's more complex than that. You can have like faster, slower. You could have like if this then that gas, like if if this oracle is going to do something, then I want to do something in the block. So it's really programmable in that context. So that's what we're doing. We're making the gas
Mm.
markets kind of programmable, structured. This will improve the user experience for all those users, and it'll just drive a lot more volume, a lot more liquidity back into the L1, back into the Ethereum ecosystem.
Fascinating and complex. So this is going to be a fun one
Yes.
to break down. I'm excited for this one. So let's start with your aha moment then. The moment that you're
Mhm.
like, okay, all of the different avenues. And as you said, you were sort of looking to work more tech forward than necessarily any introduction back into finance. So, what was that pull, that specific moment that pulled you back in? Especially interested in where you referenced, being able to get 50 million, but not a billion. What were the specific things that people were saying about gas and how it's manipulated that meant you couldn't, go for those higher valuations?
So there's I guess there's a couple of things around that time. One is that uh, I guess it's one of those markets where there's just no transparency, right? And like the party I was talking to, they're one of the top 10 trading firms kind of in the street, but even they don't know how the gas markets work. And
Mm,
this is going back a few years, mind you, and I'm sure they know a lot more about it now. But it's like if you take some of the top trading firms, like they still just don't understand how this market works. And so that means it's incumbent upon us to be able to provide, like we must provide some transparency into these markets, right? We have to provide this transparency for at least the big players to understand exactly what's going on, so you don't have like one player like sniping the entire ecosystem. Like arguably, like that's bad, right? So you don't want one or two players sniping the entire ecosystem. If you have 50 people doing it, perhaps like, oh, that's a bit more
mm,
fair, right? So let's get it from kind of two players who have this like unfair advantage to 50 people having this information set. But then over time, let's set up the foundation so this information and awareness can trickle down to the everyday person, where hopefully that everyday person sees that, oh, there's a big NFT mint coming up, like I can just buy the block. I can buy the block at a certain time. That'll guarantee that I can get whatever NFT, or I have complete control. And that's where we need to get to, right? So it's starting with just this desire to create more openness around this, but at the end of the day, it's having it cascade right down to the everyday retail user. And so to make that happen, we provided this structure for the markets, but how it touches that retail user is through like wallets ultimately.
mm.
And so wallets and protocols, basically integrating with a wallet, so a wallet can give you that real time trade transfer, whatever that button is. So if wallets want that, we can enable that. Um, yeah, and similarly, if protocols want to kind of upgrade themselves to be a real-time DEX on Ethereum, not just a 12-second DEX, we
Mm.
could do that as well. So it touches every single part of the ecosystem, but we're starting with that, the sophisticated players or institutional guys, and kind of helping to propagate that information down to the entire ecosystem.
Yeah, you're so right in this idea of fairness within the industry, and I
It's
think
not
a lot.
cool.
Yeah, yeah, I think especially when it does come to like education, because it's a friction point, right? Like there's going to be people who sort of come into Ethereum in a non-regular way. Like they might not necessarily have learned everything they need to learn about Ethereum to say, okay, I am bullish on this asset. They might have come through it, as you mentioned, NFTs or like this sort of secondary product, even
Yeah.
meme coins, where the secondary product is what has attracted them to the industry, and then the friction they get, or it's basically as they start diving further into that industry through that love of whatever brought them here, they realize there's other players with bigger advantages because they understand the industry or the space
Uh,
more, or they have more capital.
Exactly. Exactly, right? It's like that first experience, you're doing some type of transaction and you're like,
Yeah,
"Well, did that go through or did it not?" Like, I don't know. Like,
yeah,
"Oh, I have to wait 12 seconds. Okay, I know something about 12 seconds," and then, "Oh, it didn't go through. Do I have to wait another 12?" Or like, what's going on? So all that uncertainty, it's just so in the first case, we just want to eliminate that. So right now,
yes.
like a couple percent of Ethereum is real time. You get that instant confirmation, right? So you trade, boom. You don't wait 12 seconds. You wait a millisecond. So that's the first thing, right? Just improving the user experience. And so that's one part of it. And we were chatting offline about this gas rebate initiative as well.
Mm,
Maybe I could segue into that as well. But like that,
perfect.
that yeah, that's another area that we're tackling. And so as I said, this foundation, it starts with institutional, but it ends up touching retail, as I said. So on the one hand, just instant confirmations, super simple. On the other hand is gas. So I am, swapping or lending or staking or whatever it might be. But gas is one GUI or it's three or it's five. Like, is it good? Is it bad? Like what do I do? I have no idea. And so, uh, we're working with a dozen protocols pretty soon, basically to just like sponsor gas. That's it. And so the way it works is like you basically work with a protocol, you trade, stake, swap, whatever you do, and basically every month they will pay your gas back through us, and it's perfect. So now you can basically like hit that button, and whatever the gas prices are, one gwei, three, five, as I said, it doesn't matter. You get it back, and that's I feel like a major hurdle or a major issue for users, just
Mm.
having to think about the price of gas. Right? We don't want people to think about it. We, as builders and as advocates, we just want them to hit the button, like do whatever it is you want to do, get the certainty that it's going to happen, and not add another friction point with like, what is this gas like is it high or low, and why do I need to tune it this way or that? Like, just hit the button. And so yeah, we're kicking that off very soon.
Yeah, look, projects are going to love that because that's yeah, just imagine liking anything in the world, collectibles, gaming, whatever that might be. Like your hobby, like right now, if you're listening to this, just whatever your hobby might be, and somebody saying, "Oh, by the way, there's like a hidden cost to all of this, but we can't just give you a price. It's going to be very, very variable, and it's also going to be kind of hidden." Unless you have the right wallets. And even then, you may need to pay a higher price, but you might not know exactly what the higher price should be to get and play this game or to collect that collectible. So you might actually overoffer on that price. It gets so complicated and frustrating to the point where people just leave. And I have seen so many people leave due to this friction point. And imagine building everything right. You've built an incredible game. You've built an incredible collectible, whatever, card game, digital collectible, whatever that might be. And you've done everything right. And then it's just some weird little rule on the back end with a hidden cost to it that turns users away. Nothing within your control, or at least didn't used to be into your control. But it sounds like, we're getting a little bit of that back with
Yeah.
ETHGas. Tell me about Gassy Rush then. So I think that's, or Kevin, you elaborate on my take, and then we can dive into
Yeah,
Gassy Rush a
yeah,
bit
no,
more.
no, no. I was just gonna kind of draw like a parallel there, which is like, in the real world, when you're like buying a coffee, for example, it's like, let's just say it's $5. I'm sure it's more now, right? But like, it's like, is it $5 plus like 10 cents today because electricity costs went up, or is it like 20 cents or 30 cents? Like, that sucks, right? But for all intents and purposes, like coffee shops don't do that. It's just $5, right? And
Mm,
whatever the price of electricity is in the background, they handle it. And so gas is like, it's really, or electricity costs, it's like an industrial input. We all know it's there, and that's
yeah.
fine. Somebody has to pay for it, but it should be in the background. Let's let kind of the businesses, the protocols, kind of manage that in behalf. And so that's the goal we're getting for. Having said that, in the real world, of course, you have like with like digital payments, you just tap your card now. The problem, it was really good when you could just tap your card and pay, except
Mm.
now they have this like, oh, how much do you want to tip? Is it like 15, 20, 25% of custom? That is bad UX, right? But I
Yeah.
mean, like, it's like the best UX is just tapping your card, and we all agree with that. And so like, that's how simple we want to make it for everyone. And
That's
again, this is across the entire ecosystem, every protocol, every user, every transaction. It is possible.
That's a great analogy, and I don't know if you like follow my content at all, but like basically I'm obsessed with coffee, so it's like the perfect analogy for me. But also
Wonderful.
in terms of wrapping your head around that, it's nobody is going to go and buy a coffee, even if they love coffee, if the variability is completely outside of your control, or you have to check electricity costs every day on top of the fee in the local store. It would just be a headache. So
Well,
yeah.
exactly. It's like the restaurants where they have those tip machines. Like, it's frustrating. You're like, oh, I hate that place because like, it starts at 20% and then it goes to
Mm.
30%. Or it's like, it just leaves that sour taste. Yeah.
Yeah, just take nobody wants to think or do math when they're
Yeah.
trying to receive a hobbyistic experience, or honestly any experience, like if you're trying to enjoy yourself, that's what you want to do. You don't want to do all these other things on top of it, and you don't want to be confused, even if it is supposed to be complicated and maybe it's your work. You don't want to be confused whilst you do that. Nobody likes that. So yeah, this is fascinating. I really genuinely think that's a great analogy to help people wrap their heads around this as well. Let's talk about Gassy Rush, because that's been hinted at. This
Yeah,
is a campaign. What really helps stakers and I think community that already are in ETHGas or could join ETHGas. What should they be paying attention to right now?
sure. So, yeah, I mean, as we've discussed so far, right? We are addressing, potentially some of the largest user experience issues, right? In Ethereum. One is just like hitting a button and trading right away. Let's do away with the 12-second block time.
Mm,
And who cares what happens kind of under the surface? To some degree, I just want to hit the button and get it done. The second part is like gas fees, right? And like, I don't want to have to deal with this GUI and gas price going up and down. I just want to hit the button again, right? Like that's it. And so, as a part of this, we can build the technology at that foundational level. But what we need is our community and the Ethereum community at large to now put pressure on the protocols and the wallets and that person or individual that you use to interact with Ethereum, because really the solutions are available today. Like we can do it, right? And so, as a part of this, it's really about educating users on their gas spend and how it works. And so this is the community initiative we have. It's we do it around beans, and so um, originally we have like Gassy Jack. He's a donkey. He farts a lot and he eats beans and whatever, right? Um, and is he a donkey or is he an ass? Anyway, it all kind of comes together in some shape or form. So beans are like our currency or our points, and with these beans, basically, we'd like you to kind of accumulate more beans and join us in this journey. And so it's a mix of spreading the word and getting others aligned with these initiatives to join us.
mm,
And help us kind of communicate what we're doing to the protocols, to the wallets, and to just users in general. And through this campaign, basically, we will take them from um, I guess a journey understanding your own gas expenditure in terms of like how have I spent gas like over the past 3-4 years. um, like what protocol did I spend the most gas on? Like what was I doing? What is the total spend? How have I spent versus like someone else? Am I like extra gassy? Am I like just like a little gassy or whatever it might be? And so we kind of grade your kind of gas expenditure in that shape or form. It's really just a fun way to articulate like how and when and where do you spend. But ultimately, this will culminate in getting real dollars or real ETH, I should say, getting
yeah.
real ETH back from protocols, and that's really it, right? Like so, providing this educational level, and then a few chapters or sections down the line, it's basically boom. We're working with some tier one protocols. I don't think I'll announce them just yet, but these are at least the first three of these protocols are 3, 4, 5 billion FTV types of protocols. Um,
Wow.
but basically, yeah, they'll be sponsoring your gas, and you can basically every month they will transfer us the total user's gas fees. So let's just say like you, Jack, you have a protocol. We'll say, hey, Jack, your user spent 10,000, so you'll transfer that to us, and a dozen other protocols will do the same thing. And then as an end user, you can basically come to our website, hit claim, that's it. You get back your gas from all those dozen protocols in a single transaction. It's super simple. That's it. And so that's the UX which will prevail for the near future. Basically, just you're going to get your gas fees back, and at some point in the future, when technology, when the wallets, when the protocols catch up, hopefully we can just automate the entire process. You don't even need to think about it; it just pops back into your wallet, kind of end of the month, right? But then that's the mission here.
Mm,
So if you, your friends, your people building protocols, if anyone just wants to remove gas, like reach out. Let's figure this out. And I this I think could be I think one of the largest initiatives ever. If you think about it, it's like how many how many people pay for gas on Ethereum? That's
everyone.
yeah, right. Like tens, if not theoretically, like hundreds of millions, right? And
Mm.
so that's how many people we can touch with this campaign. And so we'll be launching this very shortly. We will be aligning with our early community that helps us to reach out and spread the word and getting that hundred millionth user to get that gas rebate, because that'd be incredible. That means it's pervasive. We will have successfully removed gas from that end user experience.
Interesting. So essentially, with the Gassy Rush and the Beans campaign, the idea is to bring attention to the users in a way that gets attention from the protocols and the platforms that are sort of relaying right now that cost them that poor user experience onto the end user, and say, hey, there's actually alternative out there. It's called
Exactly.
ETHGas. Go check these guys
Exactly.
out.
Yeah. I mean, and
Awesome.
this user experience is not, I mean, everyone likes it and everyone wants it, and it's not particularly new per se, but what it
Mm,
needs is critical mass, right?
yes.
And with us building within the infrastructure space, and with our whatever you call it, social leverage, friends in the market, with us able to kind of
Yeah.
partner with these protocols on tier one, like I'm confident that that's more than enough energy or oomph we need to get this across the line, right? Because once you have these first dozen protocols and their users are like, whoa, that's cool, I don't need to think about gas. Those first protocols are going to get, X% more trading or volume, activity, whatever it might be. They're going to win the retail user. And at that point, the next 1, 2, 5, 10 protocols are like, oh, hey, I want to join that too. That's cool. Users liked it, and then it'll just kind of like snowball and snowball until
Mm.
we have from a practical matter, 50 of the larger protocols on Ethereum, and hopefully even the small ones as well can join also. But yeah, that's how we get it done. Yeah,
Yeah, is that the reason it hasn't been done so far? ETHGas as an issue, like I'm thinking back to 2022, and we referenced NFTs a couple of times on the show. That was bull season. I was in it. I bought some land, digital land. Was ridiculous amount of money I paid for this digital land. But I nearly paid the same amount for the land as I did for the gas because everybody wanted this land at the same
for sure.
time.
Your gas has vanished and your land has arguably probably dropped in value, but like they
A
both
little bit, 90%
a
or
little bit.
so. Let's not talk about
Okay,
that.
okay.
No, I'm joking, but no, like the genuine. The whole industry was excited about metaverse at the time.
Absolutely,
This was
absolutely.
the biggest project out there. Had launched a metaverse. It had these scarce pieces of land, that everybody
It's an
wanted.
incredible idea, right? And it's like
I love it, yeah. And I still think, in 10, 15 years, maybe, but I think a lot of the industry at the time didn't have that education background to say, hey, a metaverse of AAA standards that is similar to some of the games that are out there right now. Yeah, that's going to take 10
absolutely.
or 15 years to build. It's not going to be 2 or 3 years. And people just didn't have that education or that background in gaming to see that. So that's where the drop came from. But the need for this product at the time, and this
Mhm,
was on Ethereum, and the
mhm,
focus that had within the industry and with the even within the retail participants, it was way beyond what we see today in terms of a single moment in time where a single product
mhm,
is launched on Ethereum, and way more people than the product is offered want that product. And the fees, I'm talking thousands, like thousands of
mhm.
dollars in fees. It was over one ETH when ETH
It's
was like
crazy.
$3,000-$4,000 just for
Yeah, that's not
gas
cheap.
to get yourself in the running to pick up one of these parcels of land. Um, so when I say this problem has been there for a while, if that's not getting people's attention, what is?
Yeah.
So
And,
so tell me why.
I wish, well, I was gonna say, I wish that I wish we were around at that time,
Yeah,
right? But, from another perspective, it's like we want that to never happen again,
sure.
right? And so, we can take what we've learned from that period, and we can kind of laugh at it in some sense. But, it's like, really, how can we set up that infrastructure so the end users aren't talking about gas, and they're
Mm,
talking about the actual project, initiative, like whatever it is they're actually doing, because gas is boring, frankly, right? Like,
exactly.
I think what we're doing is exciting, but like, you're in Ethereum because you're actually doing something that you are attached to, whether it's this gaming initiative or some NFT or some community or whatever it might be, or trading, right? Like, let's talk about that, right? This fabric, let's talk about it once, right here, and then let's put it aside once it's all solved.
So yeah, tell me if that experience was happening back then. and it caught the
Yeah.
whole space's attention because these are hundreds of thousands of people spending thousands of dollars on gas, which was in no way, shape, or form part of the product that they wanted. You know, it was just this almost friction, also a little bit of what's the word, inefficiency, like in the market that
Mhm.
caused this moment in time. And that was years ago now. It feels like even longer than that, but it was definitely at least 2 years ago. Why has nobody solved it until ETHGas and until this conversation today? Why do you feel that solution hasn't come about when so many people were so frustrated with it?
I think it's a function of maturity, maturity of the market, not of the people, but maybe the people as well. But I think maturity of the market, um, as well as like people understanding what it is like to have a gasless experience, right? Because of course that experience of a few years ago, that led to the L2 roadmap for Ethereum, right? And it was like, hey, we're just sick of like ridiculous gas fees. Let's spin up these. Let's create these things called L2s. They'll roll up to L1, and then poof, now you have these L2s where yes, you're paying gas, but it's cents, right? And it's not like tens, hundreds of dollars anymore. And so that taught people like, hey, this is possible. And I generally, don't think about gas. Uh, Having said that, the focus has shifted for many years into the L2s, but the L1 itself, Ethereum, it's still the mothership, right? And so
Mm,
a lot of the assets, a lot of the technology, a lot of the infrastructure builders are still there, as well as like the TV on capital. Uh, and so it was just a matter of like people wanting that experience and coming back to being like, okay, I mean, of course, in the last few months, you've had like a lot of shift back to Ethereum L1 as well. Um, but it's a combination, I think, of people understanding like, hey, I really do want a gasless experience, um, as well as I think just having sufficient builders in our space, right? Like, there's not that many builders in the gas markets themselves, right? It's
mm,
a very complex market. We have a low latency trading system, then we have a full blockchain team, then we have like the smart contract side as well. Like, there's many different skill sets to build products in this suite. And then alongside this, the gas rebate initiative, again, it comes to having like critical mass and enough kind of eyes and ears and interest on this, where we're building this. Like, we make no money on the gas rebate. Like, there's nothing like it. There's nothing there for us. It's really just like, now's the chance. We're building this like better user experience for institutional players, but it doesn't mean we should leave the retail alone at the same time, right? So, like, let's create this institutional, faster user experience, integrate with wallets. It's very B2B, but let's not leave your everyday person behind. Let's figure out like, how can we enable them to just have a smooth, clean experience. And that's what it is. We had the capacity, the manpower, the influence, the relationships. So yeah, timing, mix of all that. But yeah, again, I think it comes to people realizing like, they do want a better experience,
yeah.
and maybe now it's the right time.
Yeah, I see that. And, for people who have been in the industry for years, Ethereum had like this stranglehold for attention for a long, long time. And then it really has only been probably the latter part of 2024 and 2025 where that sort of really fell back. We had bear markets before that, but then we had Bitcoin see new all-time highs, and we
Yep.
had narratives outside of Ethereum, really bringing attention in Solana for a long time.
Solana, for sure, right? Around
Yeah,
like Christmas time, December last year, like no joke, right? Like, Ethereum guys were scared, right? They're
yeah.
like, is it all disappearing? Like, we spent all this effort to make this kind of truly decentralized network, and here's Solana, they're killing us, right?
Mm,
And like, Solana's done a great job. Like, I don't want not want to knock them, right? Like, it's a really good product and an ecosystem, right? But on the Ethereum side of things, it's like, well, is it just going to vanish and disappear? And so it shifts it from like, we need to stop building like incredibly nerdy, dorky things and taking our time and thinking about like, oh, 50 years from now the world's going to come on chain. It's like, no, you're getting your lunch eaten right now, right? And so it really kind of forced the foundation, and it forced the community to really think about the user experience. So, I guess that's another element really that's kind of catalyzing or bringing this to the fore, is that like, like the user experience does matter. It's not just like technology in and of itself. And so
Mm.
I'm really excited that this is all coming together on, like, even Wall Street. You have these ETH SPACs and digital asset treasuries coming around. A lot of attention coming back to Ethereum. So this is good. It's time long overdue.
Yeah, that's such a great insight that yeah, maybe they needed a bit of a wake up call, and maybe
Yeah, it was like a
that
slap in the face.
it was, yeah, it was like that dominance got just a little bit of friction, a little bit of tension behind where that was going to go. That narrative shifted, honestly for a millisecond when you look at like long term how these things
Yeah,
came out. But that was enough, which yeah, it completely explains why ETHGas and why now. Let's talk
absolutely.
about there's a when I try and do these shows, I do a little sleuthing. I'll try and go through a couple of previous podcasts if you have them. I'll go for X. So there's a couple of things that you've mentioned before that I'd like you to elaborate on for the audience, because they may not have done the sleuthing, but also because I think they're just really interesting perspectives. One of them is you've
Sure.
described gas as a hidden tax on progress before.
Mhm.
Can you explain for the listeners what that means, like what the full picture is behind this?
Well, it comes just to it really just comes to like a user experience, right? Like um, it's a mental tax, it's a physical tax, and if we have the ability to technically abstract or just like remove it, then we should do this. And it's like people know, and we've tried, and there have been different kind of EIPs, or these improvement proposals, or initiatives, um, but it's just so clunky. And
Mm,
so it just comes to it being, yeah, like I said, attacks both physically and mentally. And again, like, as much as I want people to talk about it and make this thing happen, the whole point is that, like, 3 years from now, like, let's not talk about it again. Let's just solve
yes.
it. and so then at that point, then we're not talking about, like, how often do you talk to your buddies about electricity costs? Like, I don't know, like, never, right?
In the
Maybe
UK, like it
yeah.
took it for about a month, but that was
Okay, well, there
over
you
the
go.
30 years of my existence, 1 month.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you talk about like petrol or gas costs, for your car, right?
Yeah,
Because you're using that every day, right? And so, like, fair enough, right? But like, there's definitely more interesting things to talk about.
100%.
and so, that's where I'm hoping this world goes. Maybe the thought leaders want to still talk about this stuff, or for whomever, but really, the everyday person shouldn't be thinking about it, and that's the goal.
Yeah,
So,
and
talk about us today, talk less about us in the future.
look, I like this. I think realistically, with all the cool stuff that is happening here, like being built on Ethereum, being built in the crypto space, yeah, like right now innovation is probably at an all-time high, like when it comes to actual builders who can shape these things. We had all the hype in 2020, 2019, oh, we're going to change the world. Now we've got businesses actually coming in to do that. They need the attention. Yeah, they don't need attention being drained because of those gas costs, especially in the early days where it may take them a little time to actually understand how their product is going to work on chain. And that
Mhm.
honestly, it can't kill a project. I don't think if it's been built well enough, but it can
Mhm.
definitely
It's
stall
just
its
a friction.
progress. Yeah.
Yes, right? It's like, if something's like a home run, it's like it's not gonna block it, right? But there's a
Mm,
whole bunch of other initiatives where it's like it's at that inflection point. It's like, well, I tried to sign up or whatever it might be, and it was one of the 4 friction points, and so it's like that's enough for me, right? So, to the extent that we can just remove one of those friction points, it's across the entire ecosystem, and solve
absolutely.
it once, fix it forever.
I like this, and yeah, I hope that's in the bio somewhere. Because if it's not, that needs to be in the bio. It's a great little
Well,
tagline.
solve it once, fix it forever. I need to write that down.
Yeah, definitely. Look, another thing that you talk about frequently is building the financial market for block space. What does that mean in practice? You've talked about this earlier on in the show, but if you can break that exact phrasing down for the audience, that would be great.
For sure. So, it's basically block space futures. So the parallel is in the real world. There are active markets for commodities. You trade like, yeah, you trade like oil, energy, like natural gas, crude oil. You trade like metals, you'd have like precious metals, gold, platinum, palladium, silver. You'd have like base metals and so forth. So people trade commodities in the real world because the industry, they need these as inputs to whatever product it is they're making. And so with Ethereum, we're doing something similar. Basically, gas is a commodity, and we've created a marketplace to effectively trade that commodity. And so
Mm.
um, we have Ethereum has about 100 I don't know what the price is right now, but it has about 130-40 billion dollars of validators. um, and so we've gone out to 90% of them and said, like, hey guys, why don't you sell your block space in advance? And if you sell your block space in advance, we can create this block space market, this block space futures market. People can trade your gas, basically just blocks, right? They can trade these blocks of gas like it's barrels of gas, and we can build an entire market around trading this crypto native commodity. And so that's effectively what it is. So I could buy a block of gas 10 minutes from now, and I could sell it 2 seconds later. I could just speculate or flip it if I wanted. I could um, I could buy the block of gas, and ultimately these blocks need to be built. So as time rolls down, I could build a block. I could do that if I knew what to do. Most people don't. But what you could do is you could say, well, I want to buy the block, and when it rolls down, I want to auction it off to the block builders and the wallets and the ecosystem. And you could do that. We don't have a retail touch point yet to kind of
Mm.
hit a button and make that happen, but eventually we will. But yeah, you could basically just trade block space like it's a commodity, but this is the physical block space. It's not like a derivative product that's linked to some index or something. Like, these blocks are actually going to be built. It's almost like a actual physical barrel of gas, except it's the block space of Ethereum.
Really interesting. Tell me, I guess there will be people on the other side of this. I think that's something to reference on the show, and we did that earlier, but I'd like to dive into that a bit more. So,
For sure.
what does a real time Ethereum, when we talk about transactions in the milliseconds, unlock for traders, builders, and every user? And why is it better than people just paying a premium for that experience, which is sort of what gas does today, right? Like, if I want this access and I want it before anyone else, I pay a higher premium, and the person with the more money or who values that experience more wins. Tell me, for those who like that experience and see it as a feature more than a bug, tell me, what is on offer with the millisecond Ethereum launch and why that's better for, users and Ethereum in the long run.
For sure. So this is a long topic, but it comes to a couple things. So one is that of course Ethereum is slow,
Yes.
and to the extent that we can make it from 12 seconds to real time, like, that's great. But the point is that the block space is still limited. You're still constrained by how many transactions you can put into a block. So even if we can put trades in there like every millisecond, after
Mm.
100 milliseconds, like, the block is full. And so, like, nothing happens. Now, that's to scale Ethereum, you need broadly two things. You need to improve the latency, and you need to improve the throughput, so the amount of, like, actual transactions you can get through. There's an initiative around based rollups, where basically you can create an L2 and it's sequenced by the L1 validators. When you combine what we're doing on the latency side with the based rollups having effectively unlimited throughput, then you're in this environment where you have now a low latency Ethereum with a high throughput, or a high bandwidth, and that's kind of like the end game. It's not going to happen overnight. There's going to be some teething issues, but to the extent that we can set up that foundation, that just sets up, as a starting point. It's like, hey, Ethereum's as fast as Nasdaq. Go, cool.
Yes.
Like, that's one of the many things we need to address. But at least, like, check. We're not that fast yet, but we're on our way. But once we combine that latency with, hey, now we have unlimited throughput, it's game over for TradFi. I mean, like, I love my colleagues I work with, but it's game over at that point when you have
Yes.
real time experience and unlimited block space. So that's really what we're working towards. And
Mm.
so I think that's what broadly everyone that's a builder in this ecosystem is working for. I mean, we know that finance can be far more transparent and fair to everyone, but there are these teething issues that we need to kind of get through to make it happen. Yeah.
Great elaboration there, and really appreciate your time today. This has been a super fun conversation for me, and I'm sure for the audience as well, because we've seen those numbers just absolutely blow up. So again, for everyone who has tuned in, however you found this one, thank you so much for tuning in. Big shout out from me for Kevin and his time today, and of course to ETHGas. And one thing you can do for us, the whole thing will, like, you can just record it, so you can just go back and check this out on the account. It'll still be available afterwards if you've come to this more recently than on the start of the hour when this thing started. But also give ETHGas a follow. Like, if you're excited about what these guys are building and the solutions they're offering to that infrastructure, then go follow them, keep up to date, see new shows like this, and we'll break this down even further on those later shows as well. Kevin, we're basically getting really close to time. I have a ton more questions, but we may have to bank some of these up for future shows or a recap closer to it. Are there any questions I haven't asked you that you feel are fundamental for the audience in this first run? Any milestones or anything else that I haven't been able to get through, or we haven't been able to get through today, that you'd like to leave the audience with before we do close out the show?
Not necessarily. First off, thank you for having me. This has been fun. It's been great. I'd love to do
Awesome.
it again.
Me too. Definitely.
I think if there's two messages to take home for the audience, it's that just imagine a world where Ethereum is real time and it's gasless. That's the best experience. That's what everyone is going for. And so we have a small fraction of Ethereum that is doing that already. We're on a mission to make it happen across the ecosystem at the validator side. But on the retail side, if you don't want to pay gas like ever again, follow, subscribe, jump in and support us, right? It's you guys who are going to make this happen, just as we're pushing on our side as well. But let's do it together.
Awesome. Well, for our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in today. As mentioned, go follow ETHGas, like and retweet this show as well for people who do want that initial breakdown. And yeah, just get the notifications on. Follow Kevin as well if you can find him, and just make sure that you basically, you just keep tuned and you keep an eye out for future shows and future product updates. Kevin, thank you so much for your time today. I've had a blast as well. Genuinely, a really interesting
My
show.
pleasure.
I think you guys are crushing it. And yeah, that's all we have time for. So we will catch everyone on the next one.
All right. Thanks, Jack.
Thank you so much.